Hey everybody, this is a new 2014 album review, and I'm finally here to review the brand new Fozzy album, Do You Want to Start a War? So, I finally listened to the album just a little bit ago, and I gave it a listen, and I'm here to talk about how I felt about it, but I'm going to give a little brief history of the band themselves for people who don't know. For people who don't know who Fozzy is, I'm pretty sure most of the people in the wrestling realm would know who they are because of one fact. Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho, of course, the WWE superstar who has dreams of becoming a rock and roll heavy metal god, as you could call it. And that's why he formed his own band, Fozzy. And and so they've been around since '99, and they've put out 6 releases. They had their first 2 albums were mainly consisted of cover songs of bands like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Accept, Wasp, Metallica, and bands along those lines. But then when they started making albums that had all original songs, starting with the album All That Remains, that was the album I started to take notice of Fozzy because that's the album where they decided to make original songs, and the way they did it was really well put together. Like, I was like a big fan of songs such as the song All That Remains, The Test, The Enemy on that album. And then they had 5 Year Absence, and they put out Chasing the Grail, which really stepped them up big time because it was heavier and it had more aggressive tone to it. Songs like Martyr No More, Grail, so many others, like Let the Madness Begin, God Pounds His Nails, and they did on the last song on that album a homage to the 70s, 80s prog rock and prog metal with the song Wormwood. And then they had their recent album before the new one back in 2012, Sins and Bones, where they had M. Shadows from Avenged Sevenfold singing on a song, and Phil Campbell from Motorhead playing guitar. And that album got them sparked up into Billboard for the first time ever. But now we get to the new album, Do You Want to Start a War, that debuted at number 54 on the Billboard chart. So this was their highest chart entry they've had by far. And now we get into the album. So the first song we had, the title track, Do You Want to Start a War? I thought it was a solid song to get things going in terms of how the rest of the album was going to progress. I really enjoyed the aggression on that song. Bad Tattoo was the first awesome song I really liked off the album. It had a little bit of a thrashy kind of sound to it with some more aggressive stuff, and I really enjoyed that song. Lights Go Out, which was the lead single for the album. At first, when I'm not gonna lie, when I first listened to this song, listening to like those techno kind of dance beats in the song, I was kind of like, what are they doing here? And then it kicked into the heaviness, and I thought, oh, that's a nice little curveball that they pulled. So that was an interesting song, though it wasn't my favorite. It was interesting because they threw in these different musical elements in that song and just throw a curveball in their music and go into the heavy. Died With You was a solid track. It was kind of like almost like a dark ballad kind of idea, which is like a dark sounding song that had a little bit of a ballady kind of style to it. Then they had their song Tonight with Steel Panther's singer Michael Starr. The song was good, but it just wasn't one that really hit me hard enough. But then we get to 2 straight great songs. First, Brides of Fire. A song that I really was thinking, is Jericho going death metal here or something? Because this song and then another song that I'll get into later. It's like Jericho's trying to bring a little bit of a death metal variety to his voice on occasion on some of these songs. And Brides of Fire was like a real solid speed thrash type of idea with like an aggressive lyrical idea. But then we get into a song a lot of people enjoyed from the album, which I did as well, and this is a great song, One Crazed Anarchist. Boy, what an idea to write a song about anarchy. and it had a real good heavy feel to it with a little bit, and during the One Crazed Anarchist, it's like he's trying to keep doing the death metal idea, in a sense. So yeah, with that, I thought that was a great song. I thought that was like that was the best song in that middle portion of the CD that really got this album going. But then we get into Unstoppable, which features a female singer named Christy Cook, who I have no idea who she is. The song was good, but it just wasn't one that struck me, really. I mean, I kind of thought it was a little too simplistic, but it's not always a bad thing, you know. But then we get into another dark kind of song, Scarecrow. And Scarecrow was a great track with its dark imagery behind its lyrics, and I just really enjoyed that song. No Good Way was another pretty dark song. It's pretty much a song about no good ways of dying and stuff like that. Then we get into, they did a cover of an ABBA song called SOS. I thought it was a solid cover, no complaints. But then we get to the best song on the disc, their closer, Witchery. You have a mixture of a lot of different aspects throughout this song, such as thrash, some traditional stuff, and a tiny bit of death metal. This is the other song that had a lot of highlights of Jericho going death metal. But they're not a death metal band at all. I kind of appreciate what Jericho tried to do with his voice on this album. He did some high-pitched stuff. He did his normal tonal voice, and then into the death metal. He's trying to show that he has an immense vocal range, and I like that about him. So overall, the riffs on this album were very creative. And also, I forgot to mention with Witchery, when you get into that final minute of the song, when that bass kicks in, it just, it makes me want to kill somebody. Because it's a heavy pounding bass tone during the last minute of that song, and that was a killer way to close out the song, was with that pounding bass riffing going on and within that song. But yeah, the bass was great. The drums sounded really well. The guitars, like I said, the riffs, the solos were very good. And Jericho's voice, he was the highlight of this CD for me, because he's showing that he has more vocal range than probably like 50% of, like, say, of the crappy metalcore or deathcore bands or anything like that. I mean, I like metalcore, but not some of the crappy ones, say, like Asking Alexandria or Bring Me the Horizon or something like that. But, yeah, Jericho's showing that people need to have vocal ranges in order to survive in metal. And throughout the disc, it kept me guessing. That's the one important aspect of this album I really, really enjoyed. Is it kept me guessing. What are they going to do on this song? What are they going to do on this? So, overall, really, really good disc. Do I think it's the best Fozzy album? Not really. If I had to say the best, it's probably still All That Remains. But this album is up there, no doubt about it. Which is why I have to give this album a solid 8.5 out of 10. Solid release. Really, really enjoyed it. And there you go. This was just Fozzy's second album on Century Media, which is probably one of my favorite metal labels there is, because they have such a diverse group of bands on that label that it's ridiculous. You got Fozzy there, you got Napalm Death, you got Deicide, you got Arch Enemy, you got Butcher Babies, You got Lacuna Coil. You got all these kind of different style bands all under this melting pot of Century Media Records. And for their second disc on the album, very solid effort. If you ask me, I think this album's a tiny bit better than Sins and Bones, so there you go. But anyways, thank you guys for checking out this album review. The next album I'm going to review, which will be coming soon, is my review of the new Accept album, Blind Rage. But anyways, rock on.